if we can get this down to numbers 20,000 and below, that's a good outcome in terms of where we would hope to get to with this outbreak.
20,000 deaths, the hope for lockdown now shattered. The latest figures show the UK's coronavirus toll is twice that, more than 40,000, by far the highest in Europe. This professor of public health says lockdown came too late.
Most of these deaths were entirely avoidable. I think it was late action, late awareness, a lack of interest in what was going on around the world, and not listening to the advice from WHO and the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, and not learning from the experience of other countries who had experienced it in the weeks and even a month or so before it arrived on our shore.
The UK's epidemic hasn't just been bigger, it's lasted longer. Hospital admissions of patients with COVID-19 peaked at more than 3,100 a day at the beginning of April. In the 2 weeks that followed, they more than halved to 1,500. But the rate of decline has slowed. In the last week, it's been barely perceptible. There are still more than 400 admissions a day. One reason may be that the virus, which has driven up deaths so sharply in care homes compared to hospitals and private homes, is taking longer to fall in residential settings and could be reseeding the outbreak in the wider community. But other experts say the lockdown itself was too relaxed.
The way in which the lockdown has been approached in the UK hasn't been as strict or as thorough as in other countries. I'd say that it's been a bit more of a half-hearted approach to a lockdown than we've seen in other countries, where there's been a lot stronger enforcement and perhaps a lot more emphasis and clarity in the message that was given to the public. Here it's almost like asking people to do things, but I think in other countries the approach has been much clearer that this was a national emergency.
Almost 8,000 people a day are still catching COVID-19, but barely a quarter of them are tested and isolated. Even the government's chief scientist has urged caution as ministers lift layer after layer of the lockdown. Whether that's let the virus loose once again won't be known until at least next week. Thomas Moore, Sky News.